All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Corning Museum of Glass. How's everybody doing today? Woo, fantastic. Well, we're going to hope to keep that enthusiasm going. We've got a really special treat for you here tonight. This is G Brian Juk. He's going to be your master glassworker making an amazing piece. And he said he'd like to say a few words before we get started.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm G Brian, and I'm excited to be here tonight doing the live stream. So hello to everybody online, and of course, hello to everybody joining us in the amphitheater here at the Corning Museum of Glass. And the piece that I'm going to make tonight is really paying homage to the Finger Lakes and to glass in Corning here. It's a little bit of an adventure from the piece that I normally make. I'll hold up a piece like, here's a piece of glass that I would normally make. Something with a lot of color, vibrant, just kind of fun and playful. But the piece that I'm going to make tonight is kind of styled after a candelabra. And it's, do you know what a candelabra is? It's like the fancy candle holder. We're going to make a fancy candle holder, but it won't hold any candles. It's going to have some grapes dangling from it, and it's going to have a beautiful bowl that you could put grapes into. And we're going to make it mostly out of clear glass, and then have the grapes be the purple and a little bit of green for the thing. So kind of paying homage to all the clear glass from Steuben and the history of glass and cutting in the Crystal City here with a fun kind of a twist for it. And I haven't done it before, so who knows what's going to happen, but either way, we're going to have a lot of fun. So thanks so much for joining us, and enjoy the show.
All right, yeah, big round of applause for G. This is going to be a really special piece. Now, he's got a fantastic team assembled here this evening as well. This is Benjamin Ewan, and we've got Katie Hubbs and Heather Spiewak. They're going to be jumping in and assisting, so let's give them a big round of applause as well. Thank you so much. My name's Helen. I'm going to be narrating you through the process, and I'm available for any questions. We also have Amanda here. She's going to be answering the online questions, and anything she can't answer, she'll, of course, ask me to help out as well. So keep those questions coming from online. You already got one going already? Of course they're so excited.
Oh, wow.
G Brian's on the mic.
All
yes.
right.
What inspires and influences your work the most, G?
Wow, that's a
Right
great question. Yeah, right out of the gates here. Yeah, how do you bridge that gap between inspiration, in our case, of course, perspiration? How do you bridge that gap, and what influences me the most? I'm really influenced by color. I love pattern. Lately, I've been looking at a lot of flowers, and I just got some bird feeders, so I've really been enjoying watching birds and just all the color that they have. So when I'm making a piece of glass, I'm not necessarily always trying to recreate the flower. And you'll see, I'm going to start with a grape. I'm not going to recreate a grape pattern, but I'm really just going to take the essence of grapes. So when we look at this when we're done, we say, oh yeah, that's definitely grapes. But it's not like, you know, an actual photo. And I just really try to have a lot of fun when I'm here in the glass shop, making glass and doing something that I'm passionate about. That was kind of a long, rambling answer, huh?
That's perfect. We've got all kinds of time tonight, too. But yeah, a very common theme in his work, and it's really exciting to see a piece like this come together. He's been kind of practicing and playing around with different pieces and parts throughout the last couple days, just to kind of try out some of his theories. And one of the things I really love about glass making and making pieces like this is, as he said, he's not trying to make a photographic version of grapes, but as soon as you see the little pulls and the pushes and the little bits and pieces that he puts together, it'll read as a bunch of communication needs to be, and really just put just enough information to translate that communication, but take your artistic license and do whatever you'd like and whatever inspires you for a piece. So this little bit of glass that he started off with here, he's coated with some hyacinth violet color, beautiful purple color. And we do not melt any colored glass here at the studio. Generally, we melt only clear glass, and then we can add all of our colors separately. That gives us a lot of freedom to do the full rainbow of colors, because any type you manganese in it, and you need a dedicated tank for each one of those colors. So to give room for all of you to come and hang out with us, we just melt the clear stuff, and then we buy.
This first grape leaf, I'm going to make it over at the far bench, and then I'll move to what we call our main bench. This one's all set up for what I need to do. So I'll strip a little bit of this molten glass. You can see it just running right off of the pipe. And then I try to strip as much as I can into that clear bucket that we recycle. And then I'm going to have to get rid of a little bit more over here. I'm going to let that get a little too cold. There we go. Okay, here come the grapes. We're doing some organic farming. We're growing local Finger Lakes grapes. Wineries all over upstate will use these. I don't know
yes,
which wine
that's just the
make.
back of the Sophietta.
There we go.
Well, ingenious and creative use of tools.
Stretch that a little bit more. It's pretty neat when the glass is hot and moving. I can poke it and stretch it. Give it a little bit. There we go. Need to point that up and then actually cool it down a little bit. I'll give it a little puff and hopefully we'll get a better shape. There we go, that's a little better. All right, now I'm gonna add a little bit more texture before we use that larger tool. So this time I'm gonna take a smaller tool and I'm just gonna spot heat and give it a little poke. And I don't know if, Brad, you can see that or not. Brad's on camera today. Our AV team doing a great job, as you can probably see on your screen. You're getting a great close-up. Interesting fact, it up, called New Glass Now. It features 100 artists, and Brad has a video collaboration in that show. So congrats on my fingers, but that's okay. I'm gonna set it down. All right, so now I'm gonna heat just this one little area here, the jack line. We're gonna have to break this grape cluster off of the pipe. And I wanna squeeze it down a little bit more. So the grape clusters, I'll have 3 of them. We'll put them into our garage. We'll put them into our slow cooling oven. We're gonna have that neck down, we would call that. Just cutting it down a little bit, squeezing that jack line down a little bit more so it'll pop off easily. It is breaking glass, so we have to control the break. It's kind of fun to be a glass maker. You also get to be a glass breaker.
Hey, G, we did have another question from online here.
All right.
It's a tough one.
Who's
it's
it
a tough
from?
One. Who's it from? I'm not sure who it's from, but I'll tell you what it is, and then we'll get the name off there.
Great.
But they want to know what's your favorite piece you've ever made.
Well, they're in luck because they're going to see it being made live right now. We're going to make it right now. This is my favorite piece. Yeah, it's always changing. It's always evolving. I'm sure if you play an instrument, like, what's your favorite song to play on the guitar? You know, one week it might be one song, and then you learn that song, and then you're on to a new one. There we go. So right now, my favorite piece is going to be this one. Oop, I guess I'll go in there. And again, this is going to be a challenging piece because it's a style of glass making that I don't normally do. And so it'll be fun. And whatever happens, happens. That's the easy way to take the pressure off yourself. You just, all right.
So you made a couple other bunches of grapes before we got started, right? So we got 3 in there.
Yep, so we have the grapes already ready to go. So I just wanted to show you folks how that one cluster was made. And yeah. So let's see, what's the next thing we're going to do? We're going to make the bowl next. And I'm going to start with 2 small gathers of glass. Heather, I'm going to make this a mezza stampa. So I'm going to have you gather up a little later Just a nice gather and a half, good size gather and a half. And we'll drip that on for that stamp mold. Thank you. Oh yeah, that should do it. Let's see.
Another challenging question
like
from online viewers.
Okay, great.
Yeah, they want to know, what color do you think has the most fun or unusual name for glass colors?
What color has the most fun and unusual name for color? Boy, that's a good question because I reference most of the colors by their number.
I know,
by their
I
number.
know.
712 is a very interesting one.
The dark celadon, which is pretty much
There
the
you go,
old
yeah.
name. So consensus here on this stage.
Yeah, that's a very unusual color itself. You know what glass I like is that Chalcedonia. It's got a great name, and it has a wild tie-dye of stone. I think that's what Chalcedonia would be. So I'm going to go with Chalcedonia. Final answer.
It's a good one. That's a good one. Absolutely. All right, we got a couple of techie questions online. Which
Are there any
jacks
questions
those?
from folks in the crowd, too? We've got to get them all. Okay. Whoops. Oh, I'm using Marucos. They're the shop jacks.
All right, so we're using some Maruco jacks for those. That was another online question here. There's also a really great question about, is it difficult to switch between students to a certain extent? Yes, absolutely. When you get used to a particular shop, it's like cooking in your kitchen. You know where everything is, you kind of reach for it, and you have everything laid out and you're familiar. Now, when you come to a new shop, you still know how to blow glass. You're a very skilled glass worker, but it's like going into a new kitchen. So maybe things are a little unfamiliar. Maybe the height of the bench is a little different. Maybe the height of the yolks are a little bit different. So it's making process. And glass making is such a repetitive thing that you really do get used to kind of repeating the same motions and getting that as automatics. So in any kind of shop or any kind of kitchen, just might take them a few minutes to get acclimated. Yeah, some interesting questions. Were there any in the audience that you're curious about as well? Yes, ma'am. Why did he select glass as his art medium? Dee, do you have any insights on why you chose glass over any other medium? Oh. All right, so his batteries died, so he's going to get some new batteries, but he says he thinks it's fun, and he likes the camaraderie.
All right, yeah, it's a great camaraderie. Some of you probably play a sport or play an instrument, you're in a band. Maybe you're part of a hockey team called Double Fisted, and you just get out every Thursday and you go have fun with your crew, and that's a lot like showing up for work here. You get to make what you want to do. You get to do something that you're passionate about, that you have a real love for, and you get to do it.
What I really enjoyed about glassmaking when I first went into the hot shop for the first time in college, that was not only the glow of the glass and all the excitement that was happening, but it was just amazing to watch the people kind of dance around each other and work together. And you really do rely on the folks that you're working with, and so you have to build that trust and that camaraderie, absolutely. I think that would be a very common theme for a lot of glass workers.
If there were no major big bubbles. If a little seed bubble, I don't mind at all. Sometimes when you make a gather of glass, you'll get a couple of bubbles. In fact, I don't know if you can see the ones that are on the pipe here. There's some that come right off the end. I think Brad will probably get them. Yeah, do you see the small bubbles that are like right in here? Of them down further in the piece. I'd probably just start again for this particular piece. Again, this homage that we're paying to the Crystal City, the glass that they would use is always literally crystal clear, right? It's very clean, very pure. And if there were major bubbles or small flaws, they would actually get rid of. They would start again. They would they would not use that glass. So if I were making one of my flower bowls, you know, a little bubble in there, I don't mind. Oh yeah, that'll be perfect. Okay, let's put that on. Perfect. So that bit comes over perfectly round and even, and that's exactly what we need to make this next part. And, let's see here. Glass, and that's pretty much a no-brainer. We like the local paper, the Corning Leader.
Yeah, that folded wet newspaper, he also used a little bit of blocks in the beginning, both wooden products. So typically they would catch on fire, introducing them to 2,100 degree Fahrenheit glass. But we put a little water on them, it creates a nice layer of steam and keeps it from sticking. And the quality of the paper does make a big difference, because if you've got really cheap paper or really small staples, it'll end up just turning to mush in your hands. So the Corning Leader definitely has a nice staple. So going down into our optic mold, he's doing a mezzo here, and you can see all those beautiful patterns that were pushed into the glass from the use of that optic mold. We use these optic molds a lot here in the studio because they impart such lovely textures. You got the bowl here in the front, really all these thick ridges that are on the surface. If you balance this entire vessel, and since it's only on the bottom half, it'll leave a really fun texture to the bottom half of this low bowl.
Cooling off the ridges a little bit, pinching them, making them a little bit thicker, and cooling them off to keep the texture. If you don't crimp it, you don't get nice texture, and that's kind of what we're after with this, or the optics. I'll give it a little heat, and then I'll have you give it a little puff, and we'll do that a couple of times to get it inflated. Thanks.
I think earlier there was another hand up, said he had a question. Yes. Yeah, so the audience member here said he noticed that G said, hey, I want to gather in a half. So what does that mean exactly?
Okay, will you blow a little, please?
So yes, when we are going into that furnace and winding glass around the end of those rods, we call that the act of gathering. But we also refer to the amount of material as a gather of glass. So every time you go back in, it's the first gather, second gather, third gather. Now, you can make a gather that has, you grab a little bit more or you grab a little bit less. So everybody has their average on how they gather, and you can purposely drain some of it into the furnace or keep all of it. It's just a little tweak to the way that you gather. But there's kind of a general size that we say. So if I know I wanted a 3/4 iron, and I want to gather in a half, then that means you go in for just a tiny bit, and then you go in for a full. So you kind of add a little bit more than a standard gather, or go in for a double dip, which would be 2 times right away. He also can let it cool down, blow the bubble, let it really stabilize, and then go in for another one and let it drain off the end. That's how we started with those grapes. So that would be called a strip gather, where you're letting the glass kind of strip off the core bubble that's a little colder. So yeah, it is a measurement amount, and he knows Heather and how she works and about the amount of glass that she would gather. So it's a good reference for him as well to understand his assistant to know, okay, I know you gather really well and you gather kind of big, so take it easy this time. Or, hey, you need to go in and get a good 2 gathers to get me the amount that I want. A lot of times we'll also give references like, oh, I want a golf ball size or a thumb size or something else to communicate so that you get exactly what you want. Yeah. All right, look how this is really blowing up beautifully.
Yeah, it's a little thin on the bottom, but that's okay. We won't tell anyone.
You won't tell anybody. You won't tell anybody. You can see he still has all of those textures, and that's really a tricky thing, to get the textures to stay in the surface of the glass. That really just shows how he's working with the hot and the cold and using those to his advantage to create this beautiful form.
I think it was a little too thick when I did the overlay of glass. I should have had it blown out a little bit thinner. It would go a little quicker.
So there's a lot of little things that can make big differences in the way that you make a piece and whether it blows out straight or blows out crooked or blows out really thin in one place, really thick in another. It's all about heat.
Yeah.
And where there's heat, there's movement. Where there's not heat, there's no movement. So if you have a lot of built-up heat, then that is where it's going to want to expand first. So he's done a few things to help cool the glass. He used compressed air, he used the tools. He also is using the torch to heat up certain areas, keep that bottom section a little colder. And it looks like our torch head's starting to come apart there. So we got a flame on flame going, but Heather's getting ready to tighten that up for him.
That probably looked awesome, though.
It did look awesome.
Yeah.
It did look awesome. I think there's a little pyro in all of us glass workers, so we're not startled by such things. But yeah, it's always a lot of fun.
We'll have to check the replay to see if I was startled.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this will eventually be on our YouTube channel. We have a lot of archives of all the demonstrations that we do here. This summer, pretty much every Thursday, we're going to be doing our late show as a live stream. Some of it will be some of our gaffers here, like G Brian. He's going to be, of course, tonight, but we've got a couple others throughout the summer. And then we also have a partnership with the studio of the Corning Museum of Glass that's right across the parking lot. That's our education side in the fact that you can do hands-on projects, you can work with glass, you can take classes and workshops. And so we are also partnering with them to bring a few of their teachers over to do those live streams as well on Thursday nights. So keep an eye on the programming because there's so many things happening around the Corning Museum of Glass this summer and at the studio. But they do a live stream on Wednesdays with their classes and then those Thursday evenings here in the shop. And you can watch those online anywhere around the world.
All right, Benjamin, I'm going to take just a little bit of air. This thing's blowing out crazy. Blow, please. Okay, that's good. All right, I'm going to stop right there. And then the next step will be to let's put a little bit on there, like it'll be the connection for our candelabra. Yeah, let's do a good gather on a 1/2 inch.
All right, so we got another question here about the inflation process that G. Brian's been working on. So he had a bubble, and then he put solid glass over top of it, but then he was able to inflate the whole thing and create this hollow vessel. So they're wondering just how that works. Well, because he had the hollow bubble first, what he put on top, that solid glass, he kind of pushed it down and around and put it in the mold. So it just created almost like a cladding on the outside of that bubble, but that bubble still protruded all the way through that solid glass. So hot pieces of glass put together create one piece of glass. So it just essentially thickened the tip of that bubble, not creating a separate bubble. So when he gets it all hot, when he inflates it, it all moves as one. This particular technique gets really tricky because you need to balance out those temperatures and get the top to blow out more, just as much as the bottom. So that's where he was building up some of that heat with the torch and kind of guiding it along the way. Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so this will be the little connection for the future candelabra-esque parts that he's going to be adding. This is the bowl section, the top of that form. And so it needs a little landing pad, a little decorative area to be able to, one, punty this to be able to open it up, and two, create that transitional point from stem to vessel. So just building up a little bit of material there to create that connection.
Great. Heather, will you make that on a small counter, please? Thank you.
So I think they're getting ready to transfer this over onto a punty. So that's going to allow him to work on the top half. Obviously, the bottom half of that bowl is essentially finished, but the top half still needs to be open and flared. So it's a classic approach to handmade glass that you finish the bottom of something and then you put it onto a punchy so that you can finish the top of that something. So we're going to be transferring it over. And instead of shattering glass like we're used to, you don't want to just break it away. You have to break it in a controlled fashion. So he's put a weakness into that bubble by putting the jack line at the very top of it. That's the constriction right at the top of the pipe. And by putting that constriction, that has added a weakness to the glass, allowing it to hopefully break cleanly along that constriction and not have that crack go somewhere else in the piece and create a shattering effect.
Alrighty.
All right, light little tap, nicely executed. Very nice.
Hey, thanks, Katie.
Yeah. We just got a shout out from Matt Decker online
oh,
as
Matt
well.
Decker.
Yeah, good to hear from you. We miss you. It's one of our fellow glass workers. Work together on ships.
Mr. Decker.
Mr. Decker.
Well, make sure. Hey, Matt, hello.
Yeah.
To you and the fam. All right.
These kind of things, these online things just really bring the whole world to you. It's so nice. Reaching out from all over. So now that he's got this traded over to the other direction, you can start to focus the heat on the top half of that bowl and open it up. Generally, low bowls and mezzostampos are pretty tricky forms, but you can see he's already doing a really nice job keeping it nice and low, and he'll just build that heat and flare it right open.
Yeah, I got the bottom a little too thin, so I'm not going to be able to, I don't think I'll be able to anyway, get it as low and wide as I want, but I'm going to give it a little bit of a trim, get rid of anything that might be a little thick or uneven. I wonder if that's hot enough. There we go.
More to try to stretch open. So if you trim it down a little bit, then it's a little shorter. It's not as much to move that glass to be open, and so it should open up just a little bit easier. Any other questions, anyone else? Oh, there's so many hands. All right. What can I answer for you?
Can I get the wood jacks too?
Consistency throughout?
Yeah, push a little, please.
So if he wanted to make multiple parts, he wants to make sure they all work together so that the whole piece ends up looking nice and has a nice balance.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that is a very tricky thing to do, absolutely. So he's going to be making all of these individual parts and kind of putting them in ovens to stay warm. So he won't have them sitting in front of him to decide, oh, okay, I need to make that a little bigger, I need to make it a little smaller. Now, the best thing I can say is he's just that good, right? That's part of it. You have to build up those years of experience. You have that eye. And so he makes those choices as the piece is being built. And he could use calipers, he could use measuring devices to help with that if he had it all laid out. You might have seen the picture that he had at the beginning. He actually wrote out some measurements, but I don't think he's using too many calipers here. So it's really just years of experience and the skill of the glass worker. And hopefully when you get it all put together, that proportion looks good. But he probably made a lot of things that didn't look good to begin with, and then they all eventually started looking really good. He's been working with glass for about 20 years, so he's got a lot of wonderful experience. Also a graduate of the Alfred program. Anyone heard of Alfred University?
Yeah.
So went to Alfred, so he's got really great skills. He's been working here at the museum or with our team, either on the road or here in-house since about 2004. So he's got a lot of wonderful experience. Yeah, so he's going to make this whole process look pretty easy.
I'm gonna flash that.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so this is the final shape for the bowl. And, you know, I think we could put some grapes in a bowl like that.
Yeah, that looks great, G.
Yeah. I was hoping to have the lines that you see just a little bit more vibrant, a little bit, they're a little burned out, but that'll happen.
So we're going to take this lovely bowl and put it away into a pickup box. And this is basically a glass babysitter. So it's sitting at around 950 degrees. It'll stay safe, warm, and happy in there. Then he can start building other parts and putting those away.
Okay.
And when he gets all the parts made,
Oh boy.
then he'll
That's
be
not
able
good.
to pick those back up
Oh, it broke.
and start again.
Uh-oh.
All right,
I think
looks
we're gonna
like
have to
that
make
one
another
was
one.
holding on a little tight. And as he said, it was a little thin on the bottom, so he probably wasn't too surprised by that, but that just gives us an opportunity to see it again. Yeah, right.
That one's clogged.
It's like a bonus show. We get to see it twice. So we're going to have to pull those parts out of the oven
Thanks, sir.
because we want to make sure that there's plenty of room for the next one that he'll make. But those ovens will keep things safe, warm, and happy. You can make the parts, and once he gets all the parts together,
Yeah, we didn't
then
like
he'll
that one.
start assembling them together. So we'll use a little bit of heat, a little bit of glue, which in the form of hot glass, to kind of glue all the parts together, and it'll end up having a finished sculpture when we're finished. Okay, I did see a couple more hands up there. Yes. Wow, you're getting dark there, sir. The question is, G, what was your biggest failure in glass? You just saw it, he said. No, I think the thing is about glass is that even the failures are a success because part of this process is a lifelong learning. You're constantly pushing your skills and learning new things, and even from something not working out, you still are gaining knowledge from that experience and being able to apply that to something that you'll do in the future. So I think that anytime I see somebody breaking things, to me, that just means that they're pushing their envelope a little bit, and they're pushing themselves as an artist and really trying to go to that next level. And so I think there's never anything that's a catastrophic failure. You're bummed when things don't work out, but if you think of it the right way, you're bringing all that experience with you, and that is always a success. Yeah.
Yeah. It's always better when it breaks now rather than later because we still need to make a few more components, assemble everything together, and then break it free from the punty iron. So it's probably better that that broke then than later on.
All right, we got some more dark online questions here.
Oh, great.
What is the scariest thing in glass making? Now, I don't know if G's got something to say about that, but I always think of the scariest thing is the thing I've never made before that I got to make in front of a bunch of people, right? But in general, the thing you have not made before is the scariest thing because you're not quite sure how it'll work. And like I said, it's an experimental. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's always kind of working through that process can be kind of a scary thing. For beginners, I think the scary thing is just the fact that you have such hot material. You know, you're going to get burned, guaranteed. You're going to be working with glass. You're going to get a few burns. If I was working in an office, I'd probably get a lot of paper cuts or something. There's just things that happen in the workplace. But once you kind of get over that feeling of being hot and being close to something hot and realizing that it's not that bad even when you get burned, you kind of push through that, and then you can start making really amazing things.
I just got word that my nephew Jet says hello.
Oh, nice.
Yep. That's pretty good because Jet's about 8 months old. So hello to Jet, and of course hello to his parents.
And Katie, you said your parents were watching here
Shout out to
today
the Hubs
too,
crew.
right? So Katie's parents, hey and howdy. Thanks for sending her our way. Howdy from Missouri. Nice. Yeah. Katie's just joined our team this year. I've only been here a couple months, but she's being a rock star. She's doing a great job. All right, so rebuilding that base bubble And as he said before, there was a few things that he might have changed, so now's the opportunity to kind of adjust that process and move a little closer to what he wants.
Good, it still fits.
So when he puts the glass in the oven, it gets bigger. Are you talking about the one that Benjamin has his hands on, or this one here? So when he goes into the one that Benjamin has, that's where the glass is, so that's just going to be more glass added. When he goes into the reheating chamber, it doesn't always get bigger unless he's inflating it. So it might just be the moments you're catching it, and sometimes the glow will make it look a little bit bigger because it's glowing, but it's basically just making it hot. So the only changes that can take place are if he gets it hot enough to create it more fluidity to the glass. So if he holds it down and lets it stretch, it's going to get bigger because it's stretching that glass. But typically, it's not really changing in size as much as it's changing in shape because of the heat. So maybe that's what you're recognizing is. Well, yeah, if when he was making the bowl, he might have spun a little faster and it kind of went like this. So absolutely, centrifugal force was taking over and moving that glass away from center, just like when you're spinning, if you're wearing a skirt and it kind of wings away from center. So you can end up having the glass get bigger in that capacity. And so it's just a different way of the glass stretching into place and kind of widen. Or if you're spinning really fast, it'll wing away from center and create that platter form.
I'll try and get this one a little bit hotter.
Yeah, he's spinning right now, but he's turning only to keep it on center. Actually, Benjamin. Hey, Benjamin. Or Katie. One of the two. Yeah. Could one of you grab a little gob of glass and just kind of drip it and kind of show the folks here how fluid this glass is? So when it's hot, it moves really easily. So if he were to stop turning that pipe at any time, it would sag. And then it would stretch one side and compress the other side. So it would create unevenness. And so we have to keep constantly turning, because if we stop, that's what's going to happen to the piece. Now, this is fresh from the furnace. Thank you, Katie. Appreciate that. Beautiful artwork you're making there.
No.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if you have it really hot, fresh from the furnace, it's going to move really quickly. If it's kind of hot, it will only move a little bit. So that's part of what G. Brian's trying to do, control the temperature to control his form. And sometimes you spin fast, sometimes you spin slow, sometimes you stop and let it sag, sometimes you hold it up, sometimes you hold it down. Everything he does translates into that material because it is a fluid. It's moving around when it's hot. Yeah. But yeah, constant turning. And I think that's another thing as a beginner, and you get really excited and you're trying to rush through a piece and then you spin too fast and everything is winging away all over the place. So sometimes you have to just calm yourself and turn really slow. And you also don't turn all one direction all the time. You kind of go a couple one way and then you go a couple the other way. And you go a couple one way and you go a couple the other way. So that it balances out that twist. Because you can see on a long piece like this, he goes into the hole and reheats. So the tip is hotter because it's the first thing into the heat and it's the last thing out of the heat. So if he just kept spinning one direction, it would actually eventually spiral because the tip would start moving and then the middle would start moving and then the back would start moving. So you're constantly turning and adjusting to keep things on center. All right, so some more good online questions here. How does different glass react to heat? Well, there are different kinds of glasses. We're using a soda lime glass. That means soda ash and limestone added to the raw material of silica. Now, this is a type of glass that's formulated for the artist community. So it's soft and malleable, and we can play with it for long periods of time. But if we were to take this same glass and try to be a manufacturer of pickle jars, we would probably get really frustrated because the glass, as it's going through the assembly line, would just keep moving and dripping everywhere. So they still have a soda lime glass, but they formulate it slightly differently so that it has what we call a shorter working time. It sets up a little faster. And so you could blow glass with shorter working time glass, and a lot of us out there have done it, but you just have to work a little bit different, right? Now you also have things like borosilicate glass. Pyrex is a brand name for borosilicate glass. And that one requires a lot more heat to get it hot and to get it to move. But one of the nice things about borosilicate glass is that it's resistant to expansion and contraction. Meaning if I throw a Bunsen burner on it, it's not going to explode in theory because it's not expanding and contracting as much as soda lime glass does, that when it's heated and it cools, it expands and contracts. So you tweak the formulas and you create different kinds of glass, and each one of those glasses has a different working quality to it. And things like color can also change the way that it works, because if I have, there's soft colors and there's stiff colors. And some of it has to do with the metal compounds and oxides that make up that material, so they'll melt at slightly different temperatures. But sometimes it's just an absorption or a reflection of heat energy. So if you're looking at black and white, if it's a hot day, you don't want to wear black, you want to wear white, right? So it reflects the heat. So if you have a light color, it might take a little longer for it to get hot and get it moving, where if it was a soft color like black, it's going to absorb the heat and work a lot faster. So hopefully that answered your question online a little bit about the chemistries of glass, the colors of glass. It's really tweaking those formulas can change glass wildly, and there's thousands of different formulas. Yes, sir. Yeah, so Pyrex glass, it did change in its formula. The Corning Corporation kind of sold off a lot of their housewares businesses, so things like Pyrex and the Corelware and stuff. So the formulas have changed, and now some companies are making tempered glass rather than the chemistry of glass. So they're taking soda lime glass and they're tempering it, and so it has similar strength, but not the same. So yeah, absolutely. There's some of that. I don't want to say Pyrex versus non-Pyrex. I'm not sure of all the different chemistries and what their secrets are, the companies. But yes, there are some type products like that that have become more tempered rather than chemical, and so they do have a different resistance to that heat change. Absolutely. So if you have the old Pyrex, definitely hold on to it. I'm not saying the new stuff's bad, but the old stuff is definitely worth holding on to. Yeah. All right, so adding that connection again here to the bottom of the piece. And he's just using a graphite paddle to help shape. Makes a nice kind of smooth surface. Helps rob heat away from the glass a little bit as well. So it cools it up a little faster. Now, speaking of specialized glasses, we might also be curious about how you're seeing inside of the 2,100 degree Fahrenheit oven. Yeah, everybody's like, I don't understand it. It's meant to melt glass, so how are you seeing it? Well, there's not actually a high temperature camera, so much as a high temperature piece of glass located inside of there. And those of you on that side of the studio, you might actually see that little black square in the very back. So that is a product called fused silica. And silica, of course, makes up most glasses. And when you get silica by itself really hot, it takes almost 4,000 degrees to get it to melt. And so we have a very optically clear fused silica window in the very back of that furnace that helps protect the camera behind it. And Corning Corporation is constantly tweaking formulas and developing new things. And even today, they're figuring out what the next greatest thing is in glass. And that was a product that was actually developed back in the 1930s, but they didn't really know what they were going to do with it yet. They just kind of made the formula, did some tests, figured out what it was good at, and then put it on a shelf for a while. And it wasn't until we entered the space program that they needed windshields. They needed ways to survive the coming in and out of the atmosphere, high temperature glass. And so they pulled that off the shelf and they started using that in some of the space shuttles. So we would not be going to the moon without glass, and we have a wonderful exhibition that's going to be coming up this summer, some activities to celebrate that anniversary. So definitely another reason to come here to the museum to check it out. And you can make your own little moon over at the studio as well, which is a really fun project to do while you're here with us. So successful trade over from one iron to the other. It's looking good, G. Looking good.
I lost my drinking glass. I don't know where it went, but maybe somebody online seen it. I don't know. It's white.
Anybody see it?
Are my mom and dad watching? Shout out to mom and dad. They haven't said anything.
Oh, man.
I invited them here tonight, but they're in Michigan, so they didn't make it.
Bit of a haul.
Are you folks from Michigan? You got excited when I said Michigan. All right, we got a Michigander in the crowd. Anybody else here from Michigan? You just like Michigan. All right, I like that. Indiana. Oh, Indiana. Fantastic.
Want me to bring it to you?
Sure, yeah, if it's ready. I had to take a little water break there. That's the one thing about, working, especially working all day, is that you don't have a lot of time to just kind of sit back and relax and drink water and things like that. So you have to take those opportunities when they arise. In that case, Heather put that perfect heat on there for me, and it gave me just kind of a minute to relax, get a little water, and of course give that shout out to Bob and Margot. Okay, I'm feeling a lot better about this one. The last one was a little washed out, a little thin, shape was a little odd. This one's going to be a lot better.
Yeah.
So yeah, when you're making a piece, I mean, anything can happen. I think we were talking earlier about things breaking, and it happens, even with the experience. Pieces break, you have to get over it. It's going to happen. It's just, in some ways, it's how well you recover from that. You could get frustrated, and it could ruin your whole piece, or ruin your day, or ruin your night. But, it's going to happen, so don't get too frustrated. Just kind of pick up the pieces, or sweep up the pieces in our case. Sweep up the pieces and take another gather. No problem. All right, so we'll open this up. We'll put this in the oven, and then we'll get started on what I'm calling the candelabra. I'm sure that's not technically what it's supposed to be called, but that's what I'm going to be calling it. So that there we go. That part will be the part that we put the, I guess it's hard to focus on a couple things at once. It'll be the arms. We're going to make a little ball and then put the arms and then put the grape leaf cluster like you saw me make earlier. We'll put that on there. We've got 3 of those to put on, so that'll be fun. That part's going to be challenging. Might as well make this just a little bigger if we can, right?
Gee, apparently your parents are driving home from Aunt Janet's house, so they haven't been able to tune in yet.
My parents are driving from Aunt Janet's?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably better they're not tuned in, though.
In their thoughts, though. Yeah.
Okay, they can watch it on YouTube later on. I'll have to tell them what YouTube is.
So we had another online question as well about if the design influenced the temperature of the furnace. But I'm going to read it as, do you change the temperature of the furnace based on your design?
All right, it's not the best shape,
and I
but
think that it could be. It could be if you're working on something, the furnace itself, if it's really cold, you're going to gather big gathers. They're going to be a little stiffer and harder to work with. So if you're working with delicate designs that require hot bits of glass that are really tiny that'll lose their temperature really quickly, then of course you want to bump up the temperature of that furnace, get the glass a little bit more fluid and hot, and it'll help make your shaping a little bit easier.
There we go.
But with a beautiful bowl, and it came off beautifully. Very nice.
Well, that felt good. I've never been so excited for the punty to break off. It's like we do that just all day, every day. You don't even think twice about it. Let's see. We're going to make this one solid, right? So this will be solid. Pineapple molds are over there. Thank you. I'm going to get a straighter one than this.
No reason to hula on a bent pony.
I'm just going to put a light heat on this one. The temperature of the pipe is crucial, and that's something that we'll give you a pro tip here. That's popular. Pro tip. Especially when you're first starting off your glassmaking career, you know, you're just ready to take that gather. But if you can't verify that the tip of the pipe has a little bit of a glow to it, you need to just go and put a light heat on it. If you don't see that little bit of a glow, you don't know the temperature of your pipe. If you start every gather with a pipe that's glowing just a little bit, it gives you a nice constant base to always rely on and always work on. So when you're first learning, even now, take that moment, preheat the tip of the pipe so that you know the exact temperature you're starting with.
Excellent pro tip there, G Brian. Excellent.
Thanks. All right, now we're going to put some bubbles in this glass. A lot of times people know these bubbles will be, you know, purposeful bubbles in a beautiful pattern. And people are always asking about these kind of bubbles. How do we get bubbles in glass? So we're going to dip the glass into a mold. It's going to give us a texture, a dimpled texture. Think of like maybe a golf ball. Okay, now I have to be the right temperature because it'd be very embarrassing if I got stuck in this mold. Which happened to one of our other glassmakers recently.
It did, and he was working with a bubble, so
I don't think he's watching. Solid. We could probably say his name.
His parents are watching, though.
Oh, his parents are watching. Hi, Cindy Beam. Yeah, that's right.
Parents are watching. We won't rat him out. But
okay, here we go.
These molds are a little scary.
There's a texture in these molds. Okay, there we go.
Like a pro.
You want it to grab a little bit, you know, so when you're pulling out, the shape of the mold has a texture to it. It almost has like a teeth in it. And that's what's going to give us the bubbles. Because I'm going to gather more glass on top of this, and when I do the glass, even though it's, you know, it's like honey, it's not going to flow into these little dimples. It's going to cover them. And so it'll trap an air pattern inside. Well, those undercuts in the mold, or those little teeth in the mold, well, they'll grab your glass and they won't let go. And you'll spend your entire day chipping those molds out, which we've all done before. Okay, I don't want those, I don't want those. I want this for now. Okay. Probably don't need those. I'm going to try and keep this a little smaller. When you're making a piece, it's very easy when especially you're gathering, you're adding bits, components, it's very easy for it to become a little bigger and less manageable than you originally intended. And I know a lot of times people love that, bigger is better, but manageable is best. So know your skills and work within them. Push the skill, push the limit. Don't be afraid of that, but also, you know when you're going to go off the edge, and try to avoid that. You don't want to blow the bottom too thin and have the piece break.
Yeah, but the second one went so much more beautifully.
Yeah,
you learned from that first one.
Really glad that first one broke.
Yeah.
Okay, so
meant to be. It's meant to be.
Part of it. This will be part of it. I hope I made that big enough. No, I'm okay. I'm going to leave it round, and that way I've got something to kind of grab onto, like when I heat it later. It'll give me a little bit of a tip and a push. So right now, when I'm making this, I'm trying to be mindful of what I need to do later on with this. So this is going to be where we add the arms and the grapes, the cluster, and the top of this right here, this is going to be where the cup goes, and then the bottom, we have to make that part still, but that's going to be where the stem and the foot get connected. So just trying to be mindful. Okay, so for the, can we move the, there's the 3 bits that are in there. I don't know who's going to do what. Maybe I'll have Benjamin, do you want to bring the shovel over? You'll do the shovel work. So the ones are these 3 right here in the front. And then same thing, our 1 spare backup. So, you know, I don't really know which way I need them, so just bring them over and I'll grab them. That'll work. So, yeah, you could just slide them over and then just grab them one at a time, though, and I'll have you flash them. Oh, we've got a message from Kevin. They're, oh, Mom and Dad are watching in the car. Oh, boy. That's safe. Yeah. Hey, Dad, slow down. Yeah, get out of the left lane. Perfect, thanks. Yep. I think I'm going to just give it a little bit of a heat. I wanted that to set up, so that's perfect. I'm going to give it just a little bit of heat. Pull it off with a pipe a little bit. And then maybe I'll have you ready to take any flashes that I need. And then will you bring the glue bits? Okay. So the glue bits, we're going to attach these little candelabra arms with some glass. We'll use the glass like glue, hence we call it a glue bit. All right, so we'll put those 3 on, then we'll put the grapes on, and then we'll put the whole thing into the pickup box.
I like how your bubbles created like a little sphere on the very top sphere,
Yeah.
too.
I'm going to use the large tweezers. I better dry this off. Can you flash that for me? And then, Ben, whenever you're ready, I suppose. So what'll happen, Katie, is you'll bring that over. Like you'll have to kind of work with Ben. Ben's going to flash it and then more or less bring it right here. And so I'd like it, like you snip it, I'll be ready, and then Ben will kind of slip in there. And so it's a quick 1, 2. Oh yeah, we're going to need to open the doors. It's going to get pretty big pretty quick. These little arms are only about 5 inches, but 5 inches plus 5 inches plus the ball, this thing will be a foot across in no time at all. So. All right, yeah, I suppose I'm ready when you're ready. Okay, yep, so you'll flash and then you'll come on over. And that means, I guess, Katie, we're ready for that bit. So I've got to think about how these are going on. Great. There we go. Thank you. Okay, Ben. Oh boy, there we go. Yep, you're good to go for the next one. Okay, thank you. Boy, it's really nice having a team that's well honed at this point, right? Because you can see like everybody has a job, and Heather's making my job really easy right now because she just grabs it and gives it that quick reheat, and we're good to go. I don't have to even think about getting up or worry about that at all. Okay, so Ben, as soon as you're ready, I'm just gonna put them on, boom, boom, boom. And then we'll do the same with the grapes. Now, Katie, for the grapes, when we put the glue bits on for those will be Rosetta green and they'll be a little bigger. And I never found the tool I was supposed to go look for, so. Yeah, just a nice size gather, yeah. I was gonna find we have these little crimps that have a little leaf pattern on them. I was gonna go look for him, but I never did. I was having a snack instead. Yep, ready when you're ready. You could probably just, yeah, load them right up. Beautiful. Thank you, Heather. Oh, all right. So now I need to put these on in thirds. So this part will have to. All right. There. Okay. Thank you. There we go. Thank you. Boy, it's a hot one. Okay, there we go, Heather. Thank you. Are you good with the door, Heather? Do you need a little more room?
I'll take one more door.
Take one more? Yeah. You can see we didn't have any doors open, and just like that, we're going to have 3, and in just a moment we'll have all 4 of those doors open. At which point you folks will be feeling the heat. I about guarantee it. What do you think? Just a little lower there. There we go. Quick flash, please. So right now the glue bit, you know, I bet you they're outside. These will be great. Thank you. Yeah, these glue bits, so they're hot and then they cool down very quickly. So I have the one heat. I put them on. We give it a flash because the part, that candelabra part, that arm, is very cold, so we need to get it back into the furnace. And then just like that, that first one's all set up, I can't move it, and the second one is all but there. Yep. And then I wasn't even paying attention. Heather said, okay, your glue bit's coming over, so let me give that a quick reheat. So again, you can see she's really on it. And then you see how she sets it down? She sets it down so that I don't even have to look at it. I just grab the pipe. It's already facing the direction that I need. And we're good to go. Okay, there we go. There's our 3 bits. Thank you, Heather. Okay, hopefully I sectioned them off fairly well. Are you still good with the doors? Yeah. Okay. All right, Katie, will you make that nice size gather for the glue bit out of the Rosetta? And we'll just take that like really hot. Okay, so for this next part, I want to, let's see, I'll need these shears. Nope, I better make sure this is right. This is fun, it's challenging, and it's a little out of my wheelhouse, so. A lot of times, you know, when we make glass, it's all about, oh, look at the color, look at the shape, proportion is important. But I usually don't make like fine, intricate goblets and intricate detailed things where I need to really worry about the height of, you know, multiple pieces put together. Yep, thanks. So, all right, so I'll be ready for the grapes, Benjamin, when you're ready for the grapes. We'll just kind of make sure that these are fairly right. I think that one's going to come down just a little bit. Thank you, Heather.
So all these parts are coming out of our garage. We have the 2 different kind of babysitters up here. We've got the box that he put the bowl in, and that's a pretty stationary temperature. You set it and forget about it. But the garage itself, it can vary a little bit. You have a hot side and a cold side. It's only a few degrees difference, but you kind of store everything in the colder side so it doesn't change shape. And then you've got to move it carefully over to the hot side and get it as warm as possible before you come out. So it's kind of a lot of responsibility for Benjamin, playing around with all those parts, moving them around in the oven, and making sure they're all just the right temperature so that when they come out, they haven't changed shape and they're all ready for G to assemble.
I think we're just putting them on the fork or the plate or whatever. I'll just use this torch to make sure that the tips stay warm. It's fun to do. Looks like I could have bent the one a little bit more. How are we doing with those, Benjamin? Okay, it looks like he's putting it onto the plate. He said fine. Okay, good. All right. Yep, you could probably just bring that out and flash it. I think we're all set. Katie's got the bit nice and hot. Excellent. So I'll just wait 1 sec for him to come out. You could heat over here if you want. Or, yeah, will you flash too? Actually, I better grab that from Katie. Here you go, Katie. I'll take. Oh yeah, I gotta have the piece. Forgot about that. Timing, temperature, and teamwork. Crucial. All right, I'll take whatever when it's ready.
I'll take a flash.
You'll take. Okay, everybody's flashing. Excellent. There we go. All right. So Katie will come over. Straight up and down, please. These are going to be a little different, and then I'll need you to make me another one of these. Yes, please. So these are the connectors, or glue bits, if you will, and we're going to make them into little. Will you set that down and can somebody torch the? I guess I guess I'll just grab this, and then I'll set that in there. Okay, will you heat that, please?
Beautiful.
There we go. I think what I'll have you do, Heather, is I'll have you, when you set that down, I'll torch, but then maybe you can torch the grapes right where that connector is. Torch the grapes, can you torch right inside there? Yep. Okay, stop for a sec, please. Yep, perfect. Awesome, thanks. This is a lot hotter than the last time I was here. All the doors are open now. I think it's okay. Probably would be good to close it. I still need to make the foot part. No, I think we're okay. We've got a lot of heat in there. See, it's moving around. Just want to make sure it's stuck. So when you guys are ready, I'm ready. I'll just keep working with. If you guys, the quicker you bring them over, the quicker I'll put them on. Maybe not that. Oh yeah, let me flash that. Sorry. My communication skills are fantastic. Okay, here we go. All right, thank you.
And G's ultimately in charge of the piece as it's coming along, but he's also has to kind of trust the instincts of the assistants that he's working with. And if they feel like something's just not quite timing right, they let him know that communication is really important.
So, yep, set that down, and Heather, you'll torch that, please. Okay, thank you. All right. I'd actually like to just kind of make sure that's on there a little bit better. Okay, there we go, Heather. Wow, look at that. Now that, again, this is not something that I've done before, and it's not something that we as a team have really worked on before, so that's why these first ones. But you notice that second one, Heather, she ran around, did exactly what, and then boom, she was already there to take the piece away on perfect timing. So she's very adept in picking it up very quickly. She knows what I need, actually. It seems like a nanosecond before I know that I needed it.
I know, that's the sign of a good assistant right there.
Yeah.
Generally, the best
the other
assistants
one.
are
Let's do that
also
one.
very talented gaffers themselves.
So, yeah, Benjamin, whenever
kind of
that next one's
anticipate
ready.
the needs of the gaffer.
It's a little dusty. I love that. Okay. And Benjamin's saying that the grapes have got a little dust on them. They've been rolling around in the garage. That kiln with the ceramic.
We'll just put that to the back when you take the photograph.
Yeah, I'm not worried about a little dust. That'll wash off. Thank you. All right, so we've got our third cluster of grapes to put on. I'll probably have Katie bring over one more glue bit for each one that we could put on there, and just to make sure they're sealed on afterwards. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. And then you guys will be ready after this, so I'll flash and then you'll come over? Yeah. Wow, we've got it down now. Of course, by the time you get it down,
third time's the charm.
Yeah. Okay, open please. I can imagine, now we're in the old Steuben Crystal Factory, so I can imagine the old Steuben glass makers, the old gaffers, would have been making candlesticks. And can you move the torch a little, please? Sorry, no, perfect. Thank you. There we go. Benjamin, where are you at, bud? Benjamin, will you torch that, please? Okay. Benjamin, keep torching, please. Okay, that's good. Well, that one.
All right, nice teamwork.
Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to give that a little heat. The old heat treatment. And then, Katie, I'm going to have you bring over one more of those bits, and I'm going to add just a little bit more of the glue, if you will, to those parts. They're going to be the weakest connection. If I could just put one hot one on for each one, I'd feel a lot better about it. Okay, let me get another flash. And these clusters of grapes are apparently blowing in the wind a little bit, so I'd like to straighten them up a little bit. There we go. Oh yeah, that one you can see really moving around. I think we're all set. We might have to get bent down a little bit more in the end. So I'll take a flash, and then Katie, are you ready for a little bit? Okay, awesome. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of this leaf glue to our candelabra part. Open, please. All right. So I don't need those. I'll take just a little bit of that. Thank you. No, I'll take, you can heat that up, please, and I'll take another one. There we go. No, I think we're, yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be awesome. We're all set with the torch. Yeah, we'll do a bit like that on each one, just to add a little bit more strength, because the way we connected those on there, you saw the connection was quite cold, and you know, they're going to break off. They have the potential to anyway. So I think that will certainly help. And I'm ready, yeah, please, thank you. Yep, thank you. There we go, we'll just attach that on there. Draw it down. Beautiful, and then look at this, Heather takes it away. Perfect. Katie, will you preheat a 3/4 pipe for me, blowpipe, so I can get started on the next part, the stem and the foot? Thanks. All right, perfect. Thank you. We're just going to move that around a little bit. Thank you. Are you ready? Yeah, you can heat that up and bring it over, please. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Heather. Okay, so we'll attach that there. We'll snip. Oh, that was the one that needed some housekeeping. There we go. So yeah, Heather, will you give that just like a nice overall kind of a little bit of a moving around heat? We'll get it moving around just a little bit, try to straighten it up the best we can. And then we'll put that into the pickup box. And we'll be able to get started with the stem and the foot. So once we have the stem and the foot, that part will go pretty quick. We'll transfer that, and then we'll start assembling that onto the stem, and then the cup will go on top of that. No, yeah, no, we're good. Yep. Oh yeah, look at it moving around. I could see why you said let's hold it up. Yeah, you want to hold it up? Yeah, they'll fall perfectly. Work smarter, not harder, right? There we go. Yep, next. The other one looks pretty good.
Once they get this into shape, once it'll start to cool down a little bit, stay nice and stable.
We could just set it right onto the, yeah, that's a good question. How are we going to put that into the box? Which side do we want it up and which side do we want it down? You know, I think if we just set it on the grapes, we'll be good to go. Because I'm going to punty up top, and then I'll spot heat that part and put it right on. So if you want to just set it right onto the grapes, and I'll pluck it out. Yeah, would somebody catch this? Will you do that, Heather? Thank you.
That's part of the challenge of coming up with a piece like this that has so many different parts. You really need to think about the sequence in which you're going to assemble, and then also, you know, making sure it's all the right direction when it's in the oven, because he wants to punny it up in a certain direction. So a lot of forethought goes into making a piece like this.
It's funny, I'm just kind of doing this, however. I was like, oh, yeah, you know, you do this part, you do this part, you do this part. And at the Steuben Crystal Factory, when they would make candlesticks, I was looking at a bunch of their really fancy and ornate candlesticks and how they were assembled and put together. And I'd love to see one of the gaffers from the 1930s or 40s, you know. He's sitting in this bench because they'd say, oh, this is what you got to do. Why'd you do it like this? Just put it together like this. And I think they'd be really good at it. Yeah, you could get under there. You can get under there. No, you'll be all right. Yep. Yep, you can go ahead and grab it just like that, and then I'm gonna put one more water.
All right.
Thanks.
Whew.
All right, I'm glad that broke off like that. Was anybody else a little nervous about that? Yeah, a couple. Any of you guys up there nervous? Nope, they're not nervous. I like that. Okay, so this one, let's see, what did I do? One bubble, and then I'll gather on that, and we'll stretch it out into the stem. And then I'm gonna need somebody, Heather, will you make me a very thick blown foot? But not right now, just in a minute. Yeah, standard pipe with like a big double dip on it, probably. All right. Yeah, a lot of wonderful wineries in the area. I think I read somewhere there's over 200 wineries in this area. Everybody has a few favorites.
was actually surprised to look at one of those tourism maps and just see like dot, 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 all over the entire lakes.
Oh, yeah.
How many wineries, cideries, distilleries, lovely
breweries.
places.
And if you're not into any of that, there's a chocolate trail. And if you're not into that, there's a cheese trail. And if you're not into that, I don't know what to say.
You don't know
We've
how to
got
live.
beautiful
right
Finger
there.
Lakes. Yeah, rolling hills. I'm curious if there's anybody watching online or maybe even in the crowd that saw us on the glass barge last summer. If there's anybody that saw us last summer on the glass barge, I'd love for you to chime in. Oh, Rita's watching. Hello, Rita. Yep. Met some folks a couple days ago from Troy that we saw in Troy. All right, I've got great news for you folks. I've got great news and better news. The great news is that I'm not going to sing the Erie Canal song, but the good news is I do know the words, so.
Yeah, Lucas Malanik said he saw you on Glass Barge too in Brooklyn.
Oh, Lucas Malanik saw us on Glass Barge in Brooklyn. Wonderful. What a great guy. Okay. So we'll draw this out. I'm going to heat this. We're going to stretch it. So we'll make it nice and tall. I think this is one of those things where proportion comes in. You know, you want the proportion. I want this to be fairly tall and have a large presence on somebody's table or wherever this ends up. Maybe it'll end up in a winery. I don't want it to be, you know, the proportion has to be right.
Sounds
Then
like
I'll
you're
probably
looking
have
for
you
a
blow a little
sponsor
bit
there,
here.
G.
Yeah, I can have, anybody can blow. All right, blow please. That's great. Stop, please. Thank you. I wonder if any of the Marksons are tuned in. All right, so now we'll use a little bit of gravity. Stretch this out. I think I'm gonna squeeze it in a little bit. I don't want it too thick. Too much girth anyway, you know, too wide. And we will need to get this off of the pipe.
Well, Matt Decker online has kindly requested that you do actually sing the Erie Canal song.
Oh, man.
Putting the pressure.
I got an old mule and her name is Sal, 15 years on the Erie Canal. She's a good old worker and a good old pal. 15 years on the Erie Canal. We've hauled some barges in our day, filled with lumber, coal, and hay, and every inch of the way we know from Albany to Buffalo.
Woo! Just for
Okay,
you,
there's
Matt.
3 more
Just for
verses.
you.
Are you ready? All right, well, you know, I would, but I've got to put a blown foot on. I've got to concentrate again. Heather, I think it's time to start the blown foot.
So for those of you who might not know what we're talking about with the barge, last summer, the Corning Museum of Glass put a hot shop on a barge, and we traveled through the Erie Canal starting in Brooklyn and working our way up all the way to Buffalo and then back down. It was part of a 150-year anniversary of glassmaking coming to Corning, and the way it came was originally via the waterways of New York State. So it was an anniversary for not only the Erie Canal system, but also for celebrating glassmaking here in Corning. So it was a wonderful summer. We visited a lot of towns along our route, and G Brian was out there for most of the summer, along with a couple other glass blowers throughout the summer. I never got to work with G, though. We kind of traded back and forth, helping head up the teams. But we had a really, really fun adventure out there on the water.
I tell you what, seeing upstate New York at about 5 miles an hour on the Erie Canal was really just a wonderful way to explore not only the waterways, but the small towns. And we met such wonderful people all along the way. Everybody would, and in some cases, literally roll out the red carpet for us. So we felt so welcome in all these different towns. And
yeah, it was really an amazing summer. And as you said, they're rolling out the red carpet. There are all these communities that really came out and welcomed us. We've had a lot of requests, a lot of questions whether we're doing that again. But at this point, there's nothing in the plans to do it again. It was really an anniversary special adventure for us last summer. But we invite you all to come here to the Corning Museum of Glass, of course, to see all kinds of fun demos and always celebrating something new and exciting here about glass. I think it'd be hard to recreate the amazing summer that we had last summer.
Amanda, did we lose any viewers when I started singing? We gained, I don't think so. All right. So yeah, so this will be the stem. So this will be the height of the piece. We'll add the candelabra top to that, and then we'll add the bowl on top of this. So the next thing, of course, is that foot. And the style of foot that I've chosen to put on is called a blown foot. And so it's a blown bubble. Heather's creating that bubble right now. So she's making a very thick and very even round bubble that will attach here. And then you remember how I opened up the bowl? There was that opening, and then we heated it and opened it. I'll do something very similar for the foot. We'll get it hot, we'll open it up nice and flat. And like the foot, or like the bowl rather, we made that transfer. We'll transfer this, finish up the top here, and then start the assembling process. So that last little bit's gonna be intense. It's gonna be a lot of fun. One of the great things about our job is, we just get to come in, challenge ourselves, and have a lot of fun. You're about ready? Okay, perfect. Let's give this one light reheat so our temperatures are perfect. And I'm gonna need a bigger pair of shears. There we go. I'm guessing this will be hot on my fingers.
Yep.
There we go.
These bubbles always need to be added really hot. That way they bond really strongly to the connection. So you'll see Heather gets this really nice and toasty.
Oh, yeah, perfect.
And then they drop that right onto the tip of that stem.
Oh, even hit center. That never happens. Will you blow just a little bit? That's perfect, thanks. Okay, I'll just give this a light reheat. I'm more worried about the stem than the bowl. No, that's okay as it is, it's fine. Make it simple. So I'm sure some of you are noticing the problem here is that our foot has a, kind of a pointy tip to it. And our foot obviously isn't going to stand on that. So what I'm going to do is open there we go, open that up. I'm going to break a little bit more glass off the end if I can. There we go. take one more heat. I didn't get a good heat on that. I don't want to rush at this point. Oh, it is 7:30. Maybe I should rush. Okay. There we go. So I need to make a little constriction right there, and then we'll be able to break that little knob off right here. And that'll leave an opening behind. Yeah, go for it. Okay.
Beautiful. Now, we did have another question out here in the audience, and it was asking about artwork. And typically, artists can make things and then set them aside and think about them a bit, come back to them, maybe have a painting that's almost half finished, or ceramics that you can put away, cover it up, and it's going to stay safe. With glass making, can you do that same kind of thing? Can you put it away because you have to keep it hot? Well, in general, yes. Once you start a piece, you're kind of committed to finish that piece in that sitting. But as you've noticed, we've been able to put parts away into ovens for safekeeping. So in theory, you could make a lot of parts, and we could accumulate parts over months of work and allow it to cool down and stabilize and just be down at room temperature, and then take all those parts once we've assembled everything and bring it back up really slowly, and then start to put it all together as a final piece. So there are techniques, like you're seeing here, this assemblage of components that can be done over a series amount of time. You could also do techniques where, say, make a blank and then you're carving it and changing it, cutting it up, doing other things to it, and then again bringing it back up. So the Grawl technique is a good example of that, where you're making a blank to be carved to make imagery, and then you bring that back up to finish it. So in general, I would say yes, once you start something, you got to finish it, but there's a way of working in components and parts and being able to accumulate those over a series of time at your leisure, and then making those things happen. But anytime you are in the hot shop, you know, generally you're renting that time, you're paying for the time, so it is a bit of creativity on demand. You have to be in the right mood that day and hope that everything's working for you, and kind of make it happen during that time that you scheduled to be there. So you don't have nearly as much flexibility as you might have if you were working on something else in your home studio. Yeah, absolutely. That beautiful. Did you fold the lip of that foot as well, G? Did I see that? Or you just flared open? He folded it. All right, I thought so. So that little extra ring you see there on the end, he actually folded it in on itself before he flared it open. Beautiful technique. A little tricky to do, but that adds a beautiful aesthetic to it, but it also adds a little insurance to this piece, because the very edge of that foot could get really cold as he's working. So by thickening it up, it creates a little bit of a thicker edge, a little more stability to that form. So hopefully it'll hold its heat just a little bit as he goes to assemble all this together.
Yep, Heather just checked in and said, "Are we ready?" And so she did just that, what we were talking about earlier. She preheated the punty a little bit. Now this punty that we're about to apply is a very important one, because we're going to need to hold on to the foot, the stem, and then, no, that's perfect. And then that has to hold on to all the weight of the candelabra. Will you open that, please?
Oh.
Thank you. Yep, thanks. No problem. And then, of course, we'll have to put the cup on from there. So this one last punty, we need it to hold on to the entire piece, all of the weight of the piece, but then, of course, we need it to break free later on. And yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun.
Another question out here in the audience asking about the carbon layers that you see on the paddles and everything, and whether that ever actually sticks to the glass. Actually, an ideal paddle is burnt in and has that carbon layer, and as long as you keep it moving, it doesn't tend to stick. It's only if it gets really hot, you start putting it onto stationary, and it's really kind of gets sticky because glass will stick to things when it's hot. But we love using wood because it doesn't rob a lot of heat away from the material, creates that carbon layer, and rides pretty smoothly over the surface. You'll notice anytime we're using super hot glass, like at the very beginning when he cradled that glass into the wooden block, that wood had to be wet to create that layer of steam. But if you were to put a wet paddle on a foot that's already kind of a little colder, a little thinner, you could crack it. So it's really finding that balance of temperature between where it's appropriate to use a wet paddle and is appropriate to use a dry paddle.
I know there's probably people out there asking, like if in this case, are we using a really hot punty or a colder punty? Because if anybody knows me, I like a cold punty. I don't like them too hot. So this punty was probably a little colder than a lot of glassmakers would have put on. But me, I like a cold punty. It just kind of helps ensure that it does break off later on. Yep. The old hot punty, cold punty debate. We could go on for hours about punties.
Be hired and fired based on your ability to make a nice punty.
It'll be close to, yeah. I just take this back to the bench real quick. Well, I sure am glad to see so many of you folks here. It's fun to make glass for a crowd in front of a live audience. And I'm having a lot of fun with the live stream tonight. So for everybody tuned in, thanks so much for tuning in.
Yeah, you got about 200 viewers online there.
200 viewers, wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Oh yeah, the box, yeah, let's turn that up to 1050. I'm glad you reminded me, I forgot all about it. I like to turn the pickup box up. When we're working, you know, that's the one thing about if you're working in a private studio versus you're working in front of a crowd, or especially tonight with folks asking questions, you know, usually you can be very, very focused on one particular thing. But in this case, we're focusing on a lot of different things. And so Heather said, hey, what about the pickup box? Shouldn't we turn that up? I said, oh yeah, forgot all about that. So
that's why we bring along the pros to help you out.
Katie, will you open up one of those doors for me? I think I'll open up one door. Thank you. All right, let's see here now. I'm going to just kind of, well, maybe I'll use the, there we go.
Before things start getting really crazy
Heather, I'm going to
here,
hand this off
I
to
just
you,
wanna,
and I'm going to go pick
reintroduce
up
the team really quickly. Of course, we have G Brian Juk here making an amazing piece.
So
Going to assemble that together. We got Heather Spiewak doing some great reheats and keeping everything on track here. Katie Hubbs has also been helping out here tonight. We brought some really nice bits. Benjamin Ewan has been manning the garage. Of course, we've got Brad here on the filming. Always getting those great shots, man, and answering those questions online. So really great team assembled here tonight for G Brian. And of course, the amazing crowd here at the Corning Museum of Glass. Yeah, so let's get a big round of applause for everybody. It's going to start getting pretty exciting here in a minute.
Yeah. We can't forget about Kayla up in the AV booth.
Oh yeah, Kayla's up there.
Kayla's up there doing all the shots inside the glory hole.
That's true.
All the eye in the sky work. So she's doing a great job for us.
So you're going to stab up the candelabra part.
Yeah, so now I'm going to stab up the candelabra part. And I'll need, oh, you guys are getting that already? Okay. I'm going to need 4 doors here, 2 on each side, please. Pardon me. let the punny
Okay, can
cool
you
off a
grab
little
those other
bit, heat the
two
tip of
long
it.
ones and handle the other side as well?
I see the box is at 950. I'm gonna let it recover a little bit. You guys just had it open, right? Okay. Did you see what it was at before you opened it? Did you see what the temperature was? 1040. 1040, okay, so it should recover quickly. That's always good. All right. I'm ready to go, but I have to be patient because we have a lot of work in the box right now, in that pickup box. So if I rush it, you know, I could take the pieces out of the pickup box there, but thermal shock will kick in. So the box, if it's too cold, I'll go to pick the piece up, and when I hit the furnace, it's gonna shatter and break, yeah, because of that thermal shock. So I don't really wanna wait. I'm excited to get this next part completed, but we have to. Okay, so Heather, I'll have you, when I'm picking it up, I'll have you flash while I'm at the box. And that way when I come out of the box, you can just kind of pop out of the way and then, okay, so why don't you give it a good flash. Okay, and then if I can get all 4 doors there, please. Okay, out of the way, please, thank you. All right, perfect. You can leave that open, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll take the bench, please. Can I get the torch back, the hot torch? If you want, you just hand it to me, whatever's easiest. Great. Heather, do you want to either trade with me or sit down with that? Why don't you sit down with that? Because I've already got this. I'm going to step to the far side. Here we go. Yep, and then will you just torch the top of that, please? It just has to be sticky. It doesn't have to be terribly hot. Okay, let me trade with you again. Trade the bench. I'd like to sit back down at the bench, please. There you go. So I'm going to do that a couple of times, build up the heat. Thank you. Sure. Okay. Looks pretty good.
These torches are really great additions to our heating options.
Yeah, one more time,
Allows
please.
them to really spot heat specific areas. So if we get this
Torch,
whole
please.
piece hot enough to get it to stick, then all those arms would start moving around. Maybe the foot would get off center. So just blasting a little bit of heat right there in the middle. Right in the
Okay,
point
why
of
don't you get
contact.
this one a little bit hotter
some
than
really
before,
good
just like give it a
control.
good little, so everything's moving a little bit, and then we'll put them together. Katie, will you be ready to hand Heather a pair of tweezers or something? Maybe I'll give them to you.
Behind you.
Here you go. Thanks.
Hat, your G.
All right, great. Yep, will you come around to the front? We'll put it together. Yeah, I'd better take a flash. Oh, there we go. All right, great. Okay, Heather, yeah, if you want to just get that kind of hot so it's moving around a little bit. I'm still a little worried about the connection, of course. Can I get that torch? The connection of all the
Thanks, Helen.
candelabra parts. So I want that to be fairly hot because I'm going to go banging on that punty and I want it to break free. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, I like that. Here you go. Just turn for a sec. Yeah. Benjamin? Okay, yep. Flip. Great. Yep. Okay, go ahead and give it a little. Yeah, that was perfect, Heather.
All
Nice
right.
job. That was perfect. So yeah, it was, you know, it was flopping around there, right? It was moving. We were all a little nervous, but that was just what we wanted and what we needed, or at least what I think I needed, because I knew that if they were too cold, they would break off. So I can go ahead and do this part now. I think we'll have a good there. Okay, so now for the cup. Actually, will you just give it a nice heat like that? I'm going to go on the outside of the bench, and I learned this technique where you beat it up with the paddles. I'm just going to straighten it up a little bit. And then for the cup that's in there, I'm going to just spot heat the cup, and I think I'll just kind of pluck it right out of there and hope for the best. That's a good technique. You just hope for the best. No, that's great. Yeah, this is the beat it up with the paddle technique. Yep. Yep, there we go. And this one's going to come over just a little bit. Okay. Oh, I got to move this down a little bit. This board's. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, okay, just turn for a sec. Turn. Turn. Sorry, it's hard to hear with the torch. I just need to make sure the foot, now this part's centered up. Okay, let's flash. So now, like once I have the cup on, it'll be very difficult to recenter everything. So now's the time to center everything up. Let it cool down so that it's manageable. And then we'll spot heat the, did you want to hold it up? Was that easier or the? Yeah, we'll let Heather do the work. Look at that, perfect. Nice, great job. Okay, so let's turn on the bench, turn. Yep. Yeah, with the torch and the noise back here, it's hard to always hear. There we go. So now I'm happy that the top is all centered up. Yep, keep torching, please. And Heather, we'll do this. We'll just take a couple of reheats. Okay, that's good. And if it's moving around on the punty, I don't want it moving too much on the punty, okay? It's hard. Once you get the foot off center, it's really difficult to get it back on center. Torch the rim of the foot, please. Yeah. That looks great. Okay. Let's go ahead and torch the cup, please. Yep. Let's do that right now, Benjamin. You're good. You ready, Benjamin? Okay, here you go. Yep. Boy, we might have to move that over a little bit, huh? Yeah, can you scooch it over a little bit? I don't know if you can or not. Well, tell you what, I'll try and pick it up. Okay, open please. And if I can't pick it up, then we'll scooch it. Can you leave the doors open now, just so the hole cools off a little bit?
Yep.
At this point, I'm getting it too hot. Cool, thanks, Heather.
Is that okay?
I'm going to see if I can pick it up first, and if I can't pick it up, then we'll move it around. That's probably good, Heather. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna come in with this torch. Everybody's got torches everywhere. That's always fun. Okay, I'll give it a flash, and we'll see if we can pick it up. I'm gonna move this thing out of the way. Cool, thanks. Okay, open please. Okay, I'm okay with that, thank you. Okay, there we go. All right, I'll put the shield back. I'm okay, thank you. Whoa, those grapes are still flying out. I just want to make sure that yeah, we're okay at the moment. Whoop, this one's touching, huh? Oh, maybe that's our new design plan. They're all touching. Would that look good with them touching? I think it's too late now.
Yeah, there you go.
This one's designing on the fly. It was, I think if you check my paper, you'll see it's on there. Cool. Yeah, we could just leave that open. Yeah, that's perfect. Oh yeah.
Is that good?
I'm gonna need that. Actually, I'll take that other door too. Why not? Just to make it a little easier for me to get in and out.
In the full brunt.
Yeah, some of you might be able to feel the heat. Okay, so Heather, how does the top look? Does the top look straight? Like even if it's got a little wobble to it, does it run straight up and down? Like a little off? Okay, I'll flash it and then I'll come back. Could you torch one of the wood boards? I just don't want to touch it with a cold board at this point. I'm probably being a little over the top, but that's okay.
Top side is torch.
Okay, top side's torch. Thank you. Great communication. Okay, would somebody mind putting on some protective equipment? Oh, Benjamin's already ready already. I like it. Okay, oh, you know what we should do? We should take a photograph with my camera. That way I can send it to my mom. All right. Oh, yeah, Heather's got a camera. Oh, yeah, we've got a couple of cameras. I'll get the torch because if you want a good photograph, it needs to have a lot of flames and fire in it. There we go. All right, check my Instagram for that later, Steuben County Glass. That's Steuben County Glass, all one word, on Instagram. Look at that, Benjamin. All right. So, Benjamin, what I'll do is I'll have you go underneath it, and I'll just have you, like, more or less just grab right onto it, and I'll put a drip of water on it. And then, Katie, will you get the annealer door, please? It's the right door on the bottom. Okay, Benjamin. Go ahead and, yep, you can just kind of grab onto it. Yep, grab it. I'm going to flip it once. Okay, go ahead and grab it. And I'm going to go ahead and lift up. Yep. There you go. Bottom of the... Yep.
All right. Beautiful piece, G Brian.
I doubt it sits straight, but that's okay.
Yeah,
Look at that.
nice.
It sits perfect. All right. Wonderful. How about a big hand for our team here? We've got Amanda, Helen, Jay's in the wings, Brad on camera. Up in the booth, we've got, of course, Heather Spiewak, Katie, and our intern, Ben. And I'm G Brian. Again, thanks so much for coming out. I hope that you enjoyed our homage to the Finger Lakes, our homage to the Crystal City and glass in our area. It's been a real pleasure working for you tonight. So thanks so much for coming out, and I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.